What what is up, everybody? It's Fred Piccanti, Fred Piccanti Dynamics. Today we're gonna see how we're gonna destroy a man's ego, and we're just gonna start focusing on that. So first things first is I gotta be pretty clear about it. And so when you want to destroy a man's ego, you have to keep in mind one single thing that is actually your perceived value. Now, the way you can destroy a man's ego is pretty simple. I'm gonna try to use the map right here so I can help you out. And it's all based on how you're going to be putting yourself in responding to him. So how you're going to actually show up and pretty simple the way you're going to appear and the way he's going to see you. Now, let me be pretty clear with this. I will share my whiteboard right here. So you want to have a perceived value, which is this perceived value PV. And it goes up to 10, right? So it goes up 10, 10. So it's the value he perceives of you. And then you also have another thing which is very important you have to always keep in mind. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind is actions that lower or increase your perceived value. Okay? So to destroy a man's ego, you want to have this filled up as a 10 out of 10, right? So if you want to have this filled up as a 10 out of 10, okay, what you have to take into account is that there's action that give you a +1 and actions that give you a -2 or -1. There's also actions that give you a +2, for example, and things you can say to a man, okay? So if you say, for example, 7 things that increase your perceived value of +1 with a man, you're going to go on a 7 out of 10, okay? Which is pretty simple. But if it happens that you actually do bad things that give you a -1, -1, then you will drop down to +5 perceived value. And you can also go back to 0 or -5, okay? So what is this keyword? Okay, this is the key KPI we need to have. You need to always take into account when we're dealing with a man. So it's pretty obvious that when you're dealing with a guy, you have to keep in mind that the perceived value, okay, is the value that he has of you for each thing, everything you do. Like, for example, you tell him that you really like him, and that gives you -1, for example. Okay. So you tell the guy that you are not interested in that much, you want to see how it goes, it gives you a +2, for example. And it might be pretty much contrary to what you actually think, because it might be like, wow, this guy is suggesting me not to tell a guy that I really like him or really love him or whatever it is. Well, yes, the answer is yes. You should not tell a guy what you feel for him, what actually are your feelings towards him. You should be mute about it. You should not talk to him. You have to be a little bit of a bitch, if you want to say it like that, a little bit of an asshole when you're dating a guy and you want to increase the perceived value. Now, a man that has a high, okay, perceived value of you is a man that really loves you and is going to do all shits for you. He's going to do everything for you. So the more a guy has a good vibe for you, the more a guy has a good feeling for you, the higher is the chance you're gonna make him fall in love. You want to bring your perceived value at 10 out of 10, and you want to keep it forever. You can lower and drop back down to 7 out of 10, like, for example, in a relationship or stable relationship. But sure thing, it is not something that has to happen every time. This has to be, this could happen like every now and then. It doesn't have to be something that's always on the spot. So keep in mind your perceived value is the value a man has of you and is the way a man sees you. Now, this is how you destroy his ego. Why do you destroy his ego when you're being perceived of a high value? Well, you're destroying a man's ego because you are saying things that no woman should say because she's afraid of losing him. When you talk to a guy, you have not to be afraid of losing him. You should not be afraid of losing a guy. You should not worry, You should not worry about the fact that he's not going to text you back. So these are all key elements you can use to make a man fall in love with you and value you for the woman you are, the value woman you are, the high value woman you are. I remember I used to study, the dating situation for, men, and it was all about being a high value man. Well, I can say the same thing for women. It's all about being a high value woman. When I used to date, I used to hang out with girls. It was all about finding out girls that were perceived with a high value. And those girls would destroy my ego. If I had an ego, I mean, I had a pretty big ego. They will literally destroy my ego. They will literally make me shrink a little bit, and then they will just make me feel sad. So another thing actually that destroys a man's ego is when you are high on aesthetics. Now, what do I mean by that? When you are extremely hot for a guy, he perceives you of high value. Because men are pretty much not that clever when it's about women. They are pretty much stupid. I know it's a bad thing to say, but men are not that much of a smart guy when it's about dating, okay? It's pretty simple to handle men, because they basically, what they do is they see a beautiful girl, which is a 10 out of 10 on aesthetics, so on looks and everything, and they immediately think she's a hot woman, so she's a high value woman, even if she doesn't even have a degree, or maybe she can barely speak English, okay, whatever it is. So I know this is kind of sick to say, but it's the reality. Now, when you speak to a guy, your perceived value for the aesthetics and for your looks has to be maintained. What I mean by that, you have to maintain that perceived value. You can maintain that perceived value with a guy by holding the convo and by not giving him any confirmation that you're really in love with him. So this has to be done and can be done also during a relationship and in a long-term relationship. Because there's going to be times, there's going to be always moments in your relationship where you're going to be like trying to show a guy that you care about him. But the rule is you have to stay one level below what is the level he's showing you. The simple math formula is minus times minus equals plus. So if a guy is giving you less than what you want, then you have to give him less than what he's giving you. Okay, so that also transmits into the texting, into the chatting, the dating, whatever it is, the time you have available for him. Like, for example, start thinking about the fact, how would a man perceive my value if I give him access immediately to me and for dates in no time, like in zero time? Well, that will give him a bad perception of my value, and that will not allow me to destroy his ego if I want to destroy his ego. So this is not about having, a strategy. It's more about being cognizant of what is going on. So being self-conscious of what is going on. You have to be conscious, okay? So you want to keep in mind, keep an eye on what is your behavior towards him, what is the behavior is actually rewarding for you, and you want to adjust with that. So that allows you to create a pretty interesting dynamic, pretty interesting social dynamic, pretty interesting relationship dynamic that's going to allow you to scale up and increase the perceived value and obviously make him fall in love with you.